Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Wrestling Realm Presents Championship Culture. I'm Brandon the Guy, and welcome because you know every belt has a story. So, I want you to know that you can watch the Wrestling Realm and check out any of our content anytime on youtube.com/slash the Wrestling Realm. You can always check out the brother, the real Dwayne Allen, Hash the Third, Brian H. Water, as we dive into some of the nitty gritty of the things of professional wrestling. Follow us on all social medias on Twitter, Facebook, at The Wrestling Realm. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can engage in the content. And if you like and subscribe, you will never, ever miss out an opportunity when we go live to join in with the brothers with shenanigans. You can also stream and download on all of our audio content on Anchor, Stitch, Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Watch and subscribe to our Twitch channel where I know the brother Brian H. Water sometimes plays a lot of classic video games. But let's get to the nitty gritty of tonight. So, if you've been paying attention to championship culture, each week I tell every belt has a story. And the story I've been trying to tell to convey to some of the people is that when it's time to buy a belt, you got a lot of decisions to make. So, as the title of this episode is considered firsthand experience. Now, I got a special guest for you tonight. And our special guest is a guy that not only is one of the admins for Championship Belt Brothers, but he also is a founder and an admin for Championship Belt Figures. What do you think that belts and figures have in common? Of course, wrestling. So who better to give us a first-hand experience on some of the topics we're going to dive in tonight than the king himself of Ichiban? And he kind of is the number one Road Warrior fan. I hope you're watching, Brother Jermaine. You know that Ben is probably a bigger fan than you. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I have him here tonight. The man, the myth, the legend, Brother Ben Walker is here with us tonight. Welcome, Brother Ben.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the compliments and all the love you showed. You guys do a great podcast here, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me here.
Trust me, we're appreciating having you because it's funny because you're part of the reason I've gotten over 130 belts, and I just want the world to know that some of these stories, you're attached to some of these stories, especially, I'm sorry, this one above my head right here. You're firmly attached to that. We'll get into that a little later, but I want to introduce you and to, I guess, showcase you to some and introduce you to others. So I'm going to give you some time to tell people exactly who is Ben Walker.
Well, Ben Walker, I've been a lifelong wrestling fan since basically I came out the womb, right? So like a lot of people say I've been in this hobby this long. I always say I've been in there lifelong. You know, I'm almost 48 years old. I told my age. So I come across from the golden era of wrestling all the way up to today's product, the 70s and whatnot. And I've always been just a fan of wrestling. So it's nothing new to me. I've grown to, just love different aspects, been a collector of different things throughout the whole years, figures, autographs, of course, belts, video games, just pretty much everything that, been part of the wrestling culture. I've always been a collector of and, just love being a part of it.
Gotcha. So I know that you collect wrestling belts. I heard you say figures. What else do you collect that's in this great sport of wrestling, as we like to call it?
Well, let me show you. I have wrestling masks. I don't know if you guys can see them. Right along the windowsill. There's wrestling masks. I got Blue Blazer and got Vader, the Machine mask. I even got AJ Styles Bullet Club mask, and also got autograph pictures. I got Terry Funk up there, Kenta, Rikishi, Scott Norton, got Nikita Koloff, um, just pretty much a lot of wrestling. I got a closet full of wrestling T-shirts, video games, of course, um, and figures, as you probably see throughout my room. The big Road Warrior wall I have here, and I can show that later on. So pretty much anything wrestling related, I've gotten into collecting.
Now, when you say collecting, I know as you can see, like belts, but you like belts, figures, and you said something about T-shirts. So I see you sporting a CBB T-shirt. Can you tell the two people what CBB is?
That's Championship Belt Brothers. That's a group that I've helped run for the last 5 years. I've been an admin in that group for since uh, for yeah, it's 2018. So 5 years, and then I've been in that group for 6.5 years. So this group has been around for a pretty long time. When it originally started, it just started as just a wrestling group, a wrestling belt group, and it grew into just talking about wrestling, different collectibles in wrestling. We share different things that we all collect in there. Have conversations, have discussions, we talk about pay-per-views and all that other stuff in Championship Belt Brothers. So, you know, if you're not a member of that group, please, come on aboard. We have no problem letting new members in at any time, and look forward to seeing you guys come in. If you're a part of the group, please share the group, and we also appreciate Brandon and everybody on Wrestling Realm is been very helpful in sharing our group and being a part of our group. So everybody's welcome.
So let me ask you this: when it comes to Championship Belt Brothers, would you recommend any wrestling fan to join Championship Belt Brothers?
Of course. Yeah, of course. So like I said, we're not. The name says Championship Belt Brothers, but we are way more of a wider spectrum as just not just belts. It's just basically a name. Belts is a good part of it, but we also, there's talk of figures, there's talk of just wrestling in general. There's just a general discussion about pro wrestling because that's basically the base of why we're all in that group.
So I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna like where I'm coming from. Ben always says, "Leave it better than what you found it." Can you tell the people what that means?
You know, um, I picked up that line from somebody else. I didn't create that line. I picked it up, but then it became more of a model that I like to live by. Just one of a few, and it's basically is, you know, if you find something, say you find a coin on the ground and it's dirty, and you clean it up, you left it better than you found it, right? So it's just in life in general, always try to build on and be positive and uh, just have a better outlook, whether it's about wrestling belts or life. But if you leave it better than you found it, then you're in a better place.
Gotcha. I want to give a shout out to the Wrestling Collectible Empire. They said, "Hey, my brother Ben." So you got some fans out there speaking to you.
That's my
Um,
man, Tyler.
that,
Tyler Dove.
that's Tyler. Okay, I didn't know
Yeah,
that was his group.
that's
And
Tyler Dove. Yep.
what's going
Great
on, brother
group.
Tyler?
Great group.
We got Wood Age 84 wanted to say RIP superstar Billy Graham. And I know you being the classic wrestling fan that you are, I know that would probably hit you a little harder than
Oh,
most fans would.
I have his DVD. The when the 40 years too, or was it 20 years too soon? He was way ahead of his time, and it was
Yeah.
proven because there was so many copycats. I don't want to use that word, but I'm gonna use it as a term. It was so many copycats or people that use some of his gimmick as part of their own. So he was a trailblazer,
Well before his time.
well before his time.
And then we have our very own Brian H. Porter. He was just saying, "Hey, yo." I guess he said, "Yo." That's his way of saying hello. So Brian H. Porter is one of the founders of the Wrestling Realm. He's in the chat as well. And Tyler said, "Appreciate the shout out," and he subscribed as well. We appreciate that. Like I always say, you subscribe to us. I personally will subscribe to everything that's attached to you, Tyler. So I appreciate that. So I know you. I know you're going to answer this question in the most Ben way possible, and people will love it when I say this. For years that I've known you, you've been championship belt brothers, but you also been what we call a middleman.
Okay.
Can you explain to the people what a middleman is?
Well, a lot of it is we try to coordinate between the makers and the buyers. Uh, it help with the communication, help with sometimes help with payments. Because a lot of guys at middlemen have a better experience of how to pay through, PayPal or Western Union or MoneyGram, and a lot of people are not comfortable using those means, and I totally understand that, and they prefer to do PayPal goods and services, and I accept goods and services through PayPal, so and Cash App, and just helping transfer money at times. Um, a lot of times you guys see I have belts for sale. A lot of people feel more comfortable if they have the belts here in the United States, and someone like myself could sell that belt to the buyer and give them more of an ease, as opposed to having to depend on whether the belt coming from overseas will ever get to them, because and I get it, and it at times there could be some trust issues, there could be just communication breakdown. It's easier for me that have experience of with talking with the makers and the buyers. I can help bridge the gap in that communication. So with middlemen, a lot of them, and there's some excellent ones in the hobby, man. One I like to shout out is Dustin King. Dustin King is great. He's a great middleman. A lot of my methods I get from Dustin. So Tyler Dove is another one. Great middleman. We share stories and situations, and we try to help each other, educate each other, as well as try to help the buyers. So yeah, just being a middleman, it could be tasking at times, but as long as we're trying to help the buyers, then I have no problem.
So let me ask you this, because a lot of new buyers might be saying, well, I don't need a middle person to do things. I'll just go directly to the buyer. So being a person that was went to a buyer, went to a middleman, I can tell you that sometimes having the middleman will alleviate some of those frustrations and the headache of the language barrier, but also the timing and explaining certain things, because certain buyers won't be upfront and honest with you about, oh, I'll take your order today. And then we have holidays happening and don't know that the holidays are happening. So you're expecting the belt within 30, 45 days, and it could be also 3 to 4 months. So what
Right.
advice would you give to somebody when it comes to dealing with a middleman?
Well, I mean, and I try to explain that the best I can. I'm like, these guys will tell you 2 weeks. I'm like, and realistically, I've only a few makers that could get me a belt in 2 weeks, and usually that's not 2 weeks, because with shipping is usually another 7 to 10 days. So
Mm-hmm.
you're almost looking at a month anyway, right? So I always tell everyone, and realistically, you have to consider anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks, in that range, to expect the belt to be processed, made, put together, uh, shipped, and delivered. Is usually reasonably it should be 4 to 8 weeks. Um, a lot of makers. Now, some of the higher end makers, because they're a little bit more particular, it could drag out a little bit longer. There's some makers that you're gonna wait 2 years. Um, not gonna go on that soapbox in here because that's not what that's for. But 2 years,
That's for another. That's for another take, right?
right? Yeah, we won't do that tonight.
Okay.
But as far as I try to give people a more realistic outlook if I take an order. And if you want to go to the maker directly, I'm more than happy to forward you to that maker directly. You don't have to go through me. I'm not going to take and twist your arm or put you in the headlock and say, no, you're going to go through me. No, if you want to go through the maker yourself, have
And
at
see,
it.
one of the things I always find challenging when you go to the maker, time differences are a big difference. So, like right now, it's 8:48 where I am. It might be 6 o'clock in the morning where they are. So
Right.
if I might get you right now, but 12 o'clock in the afternoon might be bedtime for them. So it's always, I find it good to have the middleman, but it's hard to find a good middleman because that leads me to my next question. What are some of the signs that you might be getting scammed? And I'm gonna say scam from a middleman or scam from a maker.
A lot of hesitation. A lot of hesitation. You got to look for that. Um, when they start acting kind of indecisive, when they're taking extremely long times, and I'm talking if you PM them and if it's a week, I would, I kind of would not be trusting in that, and being careful, especially when you're at that initial stage. I always say you always have to have that feeling that you are being treated like a customer and not somebody they just want to take money from you. You know what I mean? Um, a lot of it is, and I've run into it, is a lot of it is they're very hesitant, or they're overly pushy. They're real pushy, and they're thinking that that because let me say this: they think all Americans are rich. That's one thing they do think. They think we're gonna keep pumping money into them, and they can bait you in the first time to selling you a belt for $200, and then the next time they sell you a belt for $250, and the belt is no better or more tasking or difficult than the previous belt you bought, but it's taking them 2 times longer. You have to look for stuff like that too, because what it
And
is a lot of these guys are young guys. So what they're doing is they're taking the money that you're paying them to pick up the order before you, and it's on that rotation, and you don't know that, but it happens.
so let me ask you this: when it comes to payments, what do you recommend? Do you recommend sending the payment all at first, sending a deposit, waiting for the final project? Because we know sometimes the final project pictures might be a different project. So what would you advise to those that are trying to be new to it as well?
I would do a deposit. I would do a deposit. When I used to do them years ago, I would, if it was like a $200 belt, I'd be like, look, I'm gonna send you $50, right? And then as you progress, and I see progression in my order being done, um, I would, then complete the payment at the on the end as long as I was satisfied. If I'm not satisfied, I would like to get my $50 back, which a lot of times you're probably not going to get that deposit back.
And Tyler
Some
actually gave a
guys
good
have
point.
it, yeah. Some guys have it where they won't pay until the belt is completed. Would I advise that? Not really, but I mean, if it's a means that maker agrees to it, then I would go for it, because if you're not happy with it, it the the issue is on them. They have to try to get rid of that belt now, and it's not on your shoulders because you didn't make a payment on anything. The problem is some makers will try to scream scam and say you tried to scam them when you didn't, because you didn't get no product and they didn't get any money. We see that a lot, and that's another thing. Let me touch on real quick. We a lot of times in this belt hobby, these guys use the word scam in the wrong context, and we need to stop doing that. It's just that's what I observe. So it depends on that maker. Some of these makers will take a deposit, some of them won't. Um, the main objective is you want to be happy with what you buy in the end, right? I just ran into a situation. Uh, I ordered a belt. It wasn't what I thought it was.
And so Tyler here posted, he said false time frames are the worst, and it happens to the majority of all makers. That drives me, I don't want to say insane, but don't tell me you can have a belt in 20 days and I'm looking at day 40 and you're saying, oh, I just got to put it on leather.
Right,
Oh, I just got to put the belt tip on. Oh, I'm shipping out. Or you get a tracking number and it says the label was created on the 15th. And now here it is the 25th and you still waiting for the movement.
right,
So that's,
right,
I'm always about just be upfront and honest. I'd rather get the belt earlier than you tell me it's going to be ready on the 20th. I'd
right,
rather be surprised and get it on the 18th and say, oh, it's actually here. So
right.
that brings me to my next thing. And I know I love Championship Belt Brothers for this. Any belt for sale has to have a price. I hate that PM me, brother, PM me. Or if you say the worst thing a person can do when they're interested in a belt to say, hey, I'm looking for IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship or IWGP version 5, because then they have just opened the floodgates for PM me, brother, PM me, PM me, PM me. How do you try to mitigate or stop that, the pushy makers?
Well, so I just told this story in another podcast. We have 350, approximately 350 requests to join Championship Belt Brothers right now. Because we don't decline or delete your request. We leave it there, leave it hanging in there. Because a maker will get declined, he'll come right back. And he'll come right back. Out of those 350 requests, 150 of them are makers.
Mm.
That's to request to get in the CBB. So how many could be in CBB, right? And we do a sweep or we do an audit on makers, and we look at the activity, what they've done, what they posted, and then some makers will leave the group. So um, the issue was we were having years ago as people were complaining about the PME brother not using pricing and everything like that. So we decided, we took it amongst ourselves. We were one of the first groups to do it and say, you have to post a price or that's going to be deleted. And we don't play. I don't care what maker it is and who it is. If I see it, it's gone. Like some people keep me, yeah, my post was gone. It's gone. Yeah, you didn't put a price. It says it in the group rules, right? And we don't want to get any transparency loss, because what one maker will quote one guy, he may quote another guy another price. We don't want that, because that's going to cause a conflict. We don't want any conflict. So cut out the conflict, but hey, just post your price. Make it where everybody can see it, and it's a fair playing field. Now you may negotiate with somebody, and they may talk you down 20, 30, 40, $50, but that's behind closed doors. That's not in the open between us.
And so I guess my other thing is when it comes to PME brother or negotiating price, when would you say is a good time to actually buy a belt? Like, is there ever a good time to buy one?
Right now, it's a buyer's market. It's not
Okay.
a seller's market. Trust me. I have a shipment of belts right now that shipment came in a month and a half ago of 4 belts. I've only sold one out of those 4.
Do you think it's
You
saturated with so many makers, or is it just
It's
people?
very saturated. It's very saturated. Like I was just saying, there's 150 requests in Championship Belt Brothers to get in our group right now. And that's not counting some of them that we did delete off of the list in the last week or two. So when we see um, something like that, it makes you think, okay, how many actual makers are in this group right now? It be 50? It could be 50, it could be 100. I haven't gone and counted through the 3,200 plus members in the group. If there's how many makers, I may do it on the board day. I don't know about all that, but it's so saturated. We always, we sometimes joke, are they having some type of vocational college over there where there's belt making 101 or something, and there's leather making and plate making, because it just seemed like these guys pop up all over the place. It's a high concentration of these guys over in Pakistan, and some of them are using the same name, and they're using multiple names, and it's the same person. We know that too. We just don't know who it is specifically. But I've known from information from some makers like, yeah, that guy uses like 4 or 5 different names. Like, oh, okay.
And it's crazy that you would say that because I was in one group and a maker had posted some belts for like, I think they were like $199. And then he posted another group for like $200. Yeah, it was only $1 difference. But I just did a test and I said, let me PM him and say, hey, how much for this belt? He quoted me, oh, normally 250, I give you best deal 225. So automatically in my mind, that's a do not buy person
Do not
because you
buy from
posted
them.
one place, posted another, but then when I asked you, you giving me a deal from 250 to 225, but if I go over to this group, it's only 199
You have to
because the
order them
Championship Belt
sometimes.
Brothers,
Hmm.
he said, yep, and that's right. Tyler said he's only sold 3 out of his 10 belts. He took a few months in to sell 3 of those. So, whew, that's interesting to know
On
that
eBay, you know what he said
on,
on eBay.
on eBay. I didn't want to.
Yeah,
I was going to get into the eBay in a minute because sometimes other channels on YouTube, other people always say, "Oh, I bought this belt off of eBay," and I've even noticed on Amazon, even the official WWE belts that they have, because sometimes they have those special sales on there.
hmm
They're coming from makers. It'll be like $174 for a Universal Championship, and then you look at the description. Oh, 2mm/4mm brass, wool shippers.
right,
I'm like, that's not an official
right.
belt, and it always catches me off guard because I'm like, oh, look at that, can't be real. So I'm
I'm a
always worried of
and I
those type of things, and
and I'm
it's
a
always
reader.
interesting to see how people can spend their money on those type of things and get because when you're at eBay, you always think of those bad belts. So we got another comment that say, "I'm new to collecting belts. Have to pay for other stuff first. Heard raffles are a good way to get a belt cheap." So, do we want to get Ben started on raffles? Because he's the wrong person. I can tell you he's the wrong person to talk about a raffle. For some reason, and I'm not trying to take your thunder, Ben, but because I remember this very vividly. If he entered a raffle, he usually wins it. So I think that's where a third of your
They
collection has
joking
come
call
from,
me the
right?
Raffle King.
Yeah.
I, I
So
I've
I've
run.
run 2 raffles, and it was from another belt group, and I just put so raffles work a couple different ways, and I'll let you talk about them because I know of one where it's always entwined with the Powerball, and then you pay a certain amount depending on if it's brass or zinc, 2mm, 4mm, stack, non-stack. You might pay between $7 and $20 for a slot. You might get a deal, and then Powerball, it's like, oh, here's if you win or not. I always feel like if you got disposable income, go ahead, but don't get so wrapped up in raffles that you are putting $100 a week on a raffle because you could have that
Right, don't
$100 towards the
gamble.
belt each week
Yep,
and got the belt that you wanted.
don't
So
over
Ben,
gamble.
let them hear about you and the raffle king.
I'm the Raffle King. They call me that. Right. I've won over 200 raffles. Right. And a lot of times I only play one, maybe 2 numbers. I would play back then. They had like $5, $6, $8. I won a lot in the Asylum group. Shout out to them. I won AJS belts. Um, I won so many raffles on AJS belts. The last raffle I won on there, he pulled up my address before I even said it to him, and I was like, "Oh no, I moved, man." He had my old address. Like he had me on speed dial. John Barbarossa, man. He messaged me. He's like, "Hey, this your message? This is your address, right?" I was like, "Oh no, man. I bought a house. I moved." So, um, a lot of my collection because I was winning like brass belts. So I would win 3 brass belts and I would sell them and buy a zinc belt. I would take them the brass belts and sell them for 100, 125, $150 back then. That's how much the going rate was on those. And I would sell those, like, hey, boom, 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 boom. I would sell those 3 belts and buy a zinc belt. And that's when I got into collecting the zinc belts. Now I don't think I have a brass belt in here except for the cast belts. Those are brass. Um, other than that, yeah. So raffles, you just gotta be careful. Don't get too tied up into them because I am guilty. I was one of those ones. I was filtering $100 a week. in some of the, the various raffles. So I would play in the Asylum, I would play in this group, and then I would play in AJS belts. AJS belts has has a nice selection. I used to joke, some of my zinc belts I won in raffles. Um, I won in CBB, the group I admin. Before I became an admin, I won a 2 belt raffle in there. So, and there was like $20 a spot, 2 nice belts. I still have one of the belts and the other one. Um, so yeah, raffles is a nice means to get into it. Just don't get too wrapped up into it.
Yeah, especially when they are tied to the Powerball, because the Powerball draws is it 2 or 3 times a week? Because I feel like those always
Twice,
like they're good, especially if it's like
Wednesdays
a
and
$7,
Saturdays.
$11 entry, or seven or
Yeah,
two for 10, or they do like $11 or two for 22, or whatever it may be. I was doing that for a little while, and I actually won a couple belts off of that, and I was like, oh, it was a nice surprise. But I'm not. I always say don't get so wrapped up, because you could be dropping $100 in a week, and then you look, you're
real
like,
quick.
dang, $400, and I won one 2 millimeter brass belt. Did you really get the return on your investment? So,
Right, right.
but I see that Tyler said that he just won a new big WWE Big Gold the other day from AJS belts for $25. So,
See, 25, and I always
well,
joke. I always
I
tell
can't
people
wait
that's
to
a
see these.
$25 belt.
Hopefully, we see a review when they come in, because I want to see what that looks like from AJS belts. So that'll be interesting.
So I got the Dome Globe and the WCW 91. The last one, it was the big one. It was the $35 raffle.
Okay.
I won those 2 belts for $35. I only picked one number. I won those 2 belts. We know that FanDuel Dome Globe is what?
Two,
Is that
two
it,
something right now, right?
no. That's
No,
600.
which one? Wait a minute, the FanDuel
The
Deluxe or the
the
FanDuel? Which one
the
is it?
no the FanDuel Dome Globe, the
Oh, the
NWA.
Dome Globe.
Yeah. And then that WCW was another $400. So yeah, um, I won those 2, and it was a $35 per spot.
Oh wow.
So I call those my $35 belts.
So I'm gonna address one comment, because we got Wootage 84 said, I'm just looking to collect a small number of belts, maybe like 5, just wanting some sales and restocking. So I'm gonna let Ben take this one after I say this. You're not gonna stop at 5. You're not gonna stop at 5. And then if you're looking for a good sale, check out the Friday post of Championship Belt Brothers, because it's a big variety. Every Friday, I don't care if you wake up at 6 o'clock, you wake up at 5. If Ben is posting, you probably gonna get the post like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. If Jermaine's posting, you might get it around like 6 or 7. So, but
I've
all
been
day,
posting them
check
at
all
mid.
day Friday.
I've
You'll
been
see
posting
people
them at midnight
posting.
on Thursday. I've been
Oh,
posting them at midnight on Thursday. So I've been setting it so at right at midnight Friday,
is there.
Friday midnight, it dumps right into the group.
And I will tell you, it's some when I say very good deals on that post, you will get the IWGP, the Intercontinental belt that I just got. I got it off of a guy at a real. I should have paid more for the belt, but I know it was a good deal. So when I tell you, if you look for something, now it will be some. How do I say this in a nice way? Some uniquely priced belts that will make me keep scrolling. But in general, if you're looking for something, but when I say you're not gonna stop at 5, once you get that 5, you're gonna have an itch. Even I'm gonna stop at 10. Next thing you
It's
know,
a drug,
your
man.
background's gonna look like mine and Ben's.
Right. You had 100 belts. Like, how did I get at 100? How did I get?
Just
How did I
escalated real
get to
quick.
100?
You'll be buying
Um,
Deltoffs, and then display. Like, the reason I have this display case is from you. This is why I have a display, because you posted about how yours looks so
with the
white.
wire,
Yours is
yeah,
black.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
we had
And
the
I
same
and I
display
borrowed
case.
that from Dustin King. Dustin King showed me that, and I was like, yeah, yeah. It's inexpensive too. So it was. That's the other thing, and especially in our group, Tyler's group, quite a few other groups, we all share different ideas too. You can look at somebody's display and
He
like,
said, I never
man,
want to stop.
right.
Tyler
Me
said
and
he never
Tyler,
wants to
man.
stop.
Me and Tyler had this talk all the time. Like, man, you ain't gonna stop at 70 belts. Yeah, right. Okay.
There is no cap to it.
No, there's no cap. No cap.
No, I still
Uh
got wall space I can add to.
Right, right. You just looking for the gaps now. You're like, okay,
If I
okay,
put
I
a
can put
display
this.
case here, I can put one there. I just
Right,
be looking around like, because in
right.
my old house, I don't know if I ever showed you, I had them above the door. I had them attached to the door. Like I had so many belts in that one room. I put the women's belts above the door. I'm gonna find a picture and send it to you because it was insane. I found all kinds of room for them. But I'm gonna tell you this, Ben. So when we created championship culture, I wanted to make sure that the tagline was every belt has a story. But you told us some stories. The story I want to hear from you is what started your love for this collection? Not necessarily wrestling, but what made you start and want to? Where did the love start for this? Because you could tell like this, you love this because you've been dedicated to it for a long time. Do you remember what started your love for this?
It's shiny. It's shiny, right? We love shiny things, man. It's shiny. It's attractive. It's addicting to the eye. The colors come out to you. It pulls you in, and you see that thing wrapped around the waist of your favorite wrestler coming out, right? So when you see that, even as a kid, how many of us made cardboard belts with the aluminum foils and you used to put the little buttons on there and you get all creative with your little belts and stuff. It all ties into what we love as wrestling. And we look at this and you like, man, you know, even with just the figures, it all is attractive to the eye. It all drew us in. It all drew us in. It was all part of of their marketing. They all got us. And that's what it is, man. You have to admit that. We all fans of this, but these belts and these figures and these autographs, it all is part of being part of that wrestling community. Just not belts, just not figures, just not autographs, but the whole thing. And that's what we did. We got drawn into it. Whether we were that 8-year-old kid or that 25-year-old man, we got drawn into it. And that's why we're here talking about
Okay, so you heard it first, people. Ben said because it's shiny. So
it. It's
I'm not gonna
shiny.
let you let it down. He said it's shiny. So now you probably been avoiding this question, but I need to know what is Ben Walker's favorite belt?
I knew you was gonna ask me that.
Oh, did he? Let me see if I guessed it right. Oh, it was version. I thought it was gonna be version 4. It's version 3. Okay. So
V3.
I thought it was gonna be. I honestly thought it was version 4.
I
So
always
let the
say,
people hear why this. I want to know. Let me phrase this right because this is going to be a hot take. So Ben Walker, why is the IWGP version 3 your favorite belt?
I like the size of it, the artistic, the art they put into it. And this belt is not one of the tall belts like the V4 or a lot of the WWE belts. It's a kind of a smaller plate design, but you can see where aspects of the V4 came from because look at the side plates, of course, and then the medallion to it. But I always liked this belt, even though this belt had a very short life, right?
So let's
This
break that down, Ben, because you said it has aspects of the V4. What was the difference? What was the biggest difference in the V2 in that one? Because I know you had V2.
oh, I got V2
So
and
can you
and
show the
V2
people how that belt? It was like night and day difference in V2 versus that one.
V2. And some of you guys that know me know I can't stand the V2.
It's almost as bad
You
as the
can't
Dome Globe.
stand the V2. Right. It's on the same level as the Dome Globe. And if you guys are Dome Globe fans and you love the Dome Globe, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but that is just one ugly belt. Okay. The V2 is another one ugly belt. It's like they threw it together in a design. The side plates don't really kind of match the main plate. You know what I mean? It's just it has a different. I don't know. It's just and there's a couple versions of the V2. Remember, some of the V2s the wrestlers wore over in Japan didn't have side plates. It just
It was
had
just
the
the
main
one
plate.
middle. It was just the one
Right.
dome
It
in the
just had
middle.
the main
Do you have your
plate.
V2 handy, or is it
I
buried?
do. It's right here. No, it's
All
right
right, so
here.
you
You can
get your
grab it.
V2. I'm gonna grab my V3, so that way we can kind of do a comparison in the two. Because I put these on the background on purpose because I thought it was gonna be V4, but I didn't know it was V3. So mine isn't as pretty as Ben's. So, question while you're getting that, Ben, it says, "What is the best looking belt of all time and in today's wrestling?" I like the NWA North American title and the NXT North American title. So, when you say best looking belt, that's dependent on the person's taste. I think the best looking championship right now out of all the promotions, and I don't know if Ben's going to agree or disagree with me. I think the AEW World Title looks the best because it checks off so many boxes as what a world title would look like. Now, would I say of all time? Probably not. I'm gonna have to let Ben answer that one because I'm gonna see what he says. What's the best
V,
looking one as of right now?
right now, this is gonna come at a curveball, but to me, the Impact World Title.
That's not a curveball because, and I've
Because
said it, and I've said it before.
a lot of people won't consider that belt, that
It's so
championship, because
clean.
it it doesn't have the exposure. And I don't even have an Impact title yet. I'm planning
You
on
know, I got
doing
both of them, the
one.
red and the blue one.
Right. I've sold the red and the blue one. I like the blue one better. I'm a blue person.
You
I'm
like the
not
blue
blue
one better?
color. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna grab the
Um,
blue one while you say why you say that one has the.
but the Impact title, it has more of a eye appeal to me out of anything current right now. Even though it's got a big old owl on the on the top of it, it still doesn't. It just has a nice view to it. I like it. Um, I'm trying to
What
think of
stands out to be
anything
the
else
most, Impact knows their place in wrestling, right? There's no globe on the front as most world titles. They put it on the side.
on the side, right?
Details in the side
Um,
plate. I'm trying not to let the light catch it as much, but the details around this belt is just, and this is the center plate is stacked on the original one, right?
yes,
Yeah, so this is actually a 2 millimeter stack because I hate 4 millimeter stack belts because they're heavy for no reason
too
for
heavy, right,
my liking.
right.
But this is the blue version.
And I also
And
got
no,
this
the owl is
nominate.
because of the company that used to own Impact, right?
Yes,
Um, oh, I can't think of the name of the company. I hope somebody puts it into the. I could just Google it, but that's why they were using the owl because it was in all their belts. They have an owl as like their thing because on the women's belt, the owl is on the side. The X division, it's on the middle. It's his face in the middle, just like in the tag. It's above and below. But this is your best looking belt. Mine is the AEW down, but this belt is underrated. I will give them that. It is and when they up, I don't know what did they do differently when they gave them the new belts. They just look shinier now. You notice that?
yeah. The women's belt is different. I
Yeah,
think.
it's like a
Yeah,
different nickel or something they did because
they
even
did something
when
different to it.
what you call it got the world title now after Josh Alexander. Remember they gave him the new one. It just looked like the gold looked different or something.
Yeah, they did. They did a little change to it.
Yeah, and I
The
think
other belt
Impact.
I would say right now, and I should have kind of said this first, is the All Japan Triple Crown,
Okay, you're
because that's in
surprising me
current
today.
that's in current that's in current use. Um,
Okay.
I'm not pulling mine down because that thing is a monster. That thing is 59 inches long. I'm not pulling that down.
So
Um,
you had version two. Let's go back because I wanted people to see the difference in version two and version three. Because you know who I remember having that belt? Shinsuke.
yes,
So the side plates are a night and day comparison, right? I'm trying not to let the light catch it. But as you can
right.
see, you can't see it because my light is um, shining too bright. It has the past champion's name. Start using this, all right?
Yes.
And the center plate on there, that's what the women's belt is modeled behind, isn't it?
On the V2, so the New Japan Women's
is
On
modeled behind
IWGP
that.
Women's, it looks almost identical to this main plate. That's what they got it from. So if this look familiar to you guys, or certain current right now, it is. This is
And see, I
what
think the
they use
crown
for
fits the
women.
women much better than it does the men.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because granted, on this belt they put the eagle. Oh, sorry, eagle is huge and across the top on this one.
Right.
But mine is two millimeter stack. Yours is probably 4 millimeter stacked, isn't it, for your version 3?
Yeah. No, it's more. This one's 5 millimeter stack.
Okay, so that version 2 is 5, but your version
Uh,
3 is that 4 or 5 millimeter stack?
oh, my version 3 is a CNC. Last when I measured, it was 4 millimeter stacked,
Okay.
and it's I think it's four stack. One, two, three stack, three stacks on that one.
All right, so what's the story behind why version 3 is your favorite? Of all your belts, why is version 3 your favorite?
It always caught my eye with that design, man, and I remember, because only three people wore that belt.
Kurt
Um,
Angle, Shinsuke, and Brock, right?
Brock, right? Yep, that was the only three that wore that belt. That belt was really for Inoki Genome Federation. So Inoki's company after he left New Japan. I have to be careful with how I explain this because some people will try to dispute me on it. So that's what
Well,
I'll
we'll,
say
we'll,
about that.
we'll just keep it as simple as possible. They can do the
Right,
research themselves
right,
because
exactly.
it was a touch and go situation.
Right. And it was an ugly situation because basically Inoki was forced out of New Japan. Um, and he created his own company, but he took that championship with him. So that championship was really never recognized by New Japan until Shinsuke did the unification match with Kurt Angle.
Because Kurt Angle had this version, and this is what he was using in Impact. Because remember, this was on, I'm sorry, TNA at the time.
Right.
He had
And
this one
then
in TNA. And
Shinsuke was
Shinsuke
using
held that
this.
one in New Japan.
Right.
Okay. So
So
yeah, these. I just knew you was going to say version 4. I don't know why I had you pick for version 4.
a lot of people think that version 4 is my number 2, but version
Okay.
3 is my top one. That's the
Okay.
one I that's my favorite design.
So let me ask you this: top 5 belts by Ben Walker. Go.
V3,
Mm-hmm.
V4,
Mm-hmm.
um, NWA International Tag, NWA United National,
Mm-hmm.
and um, uh,
I put him on the spot.
trying to figure out my fifth one. Um, for some reason, the 10 pounds of silver, United States title.
And see, now that tells me, and that should tell the people the type of wrestling that you like, because I said you was the king of Ichiban, but it seems like you kind of the king of the NWAs too, because you liked a lot of those classic. That's hence why this
Yeah,
is behind me. I wanted to make sure I had some belts that represented
and
Ben that I know that he fancies.
a lot of it is I have WWE, WWF belts. I don't display them prominently as I do the Japan championships, as I do the NWA and the AWA, because I grew up in Chicago, so we didn't really watch WWF there. We watched more AWA, NWA. We would get some of the Japanese wrestling, like All Japan. We would get weekly. They would show it there, but mainly I didn't really grow up. We all know what Hulkamania is because to tell you the truth, Hulkamania started in the AWA. It didn't start in WWF. he carried it over to from the AWA. That's what a
I hope Brian H.
ripping the
Waters heard
shirt and
that.
everything. Hmm?
I hope Brian H. Waters heard that one.
Oh yeah, he that ripping of the shirt and everything, that Hulkamania, that came from the AWA, and him and Vern got into it over a conflict over uh, um, the concessions money and his money of him earning from Japan. Vern was trying to stick his hands in that too, and Hogan got a call from Vince, and he went up to WWE or WWF, and rest is history. But there's always going to be modifications of that story. That's the way I'm going to explain it.
That's the way you're going to tell it?
That's my version. That's the Ben Walker version. You don't have to believe it, but that was what I kind of followed throughout the years.
So. Got you. Makes sense. And look, Brian H. What it says, Hogan knows best. I knew he would chime in as soon as he heard Hogan. He probably was like, oh, somebody said Hogan. Yeah. And then Utage said, Brian dropped the ball on Hogan. That's about right. I think that's, and Vince picked it up and ran with it. Oh, shout out to Man Cave Sports TV. Said Man Up says, what's up, Ben?
Man Up, man. That's one of my neighbors. He's not too far.
That's who you go live with, right?
Yeah, I've been live with him a few times. Yeah. He's right up the road from me. Vern Gagne messed up on a lot, man, in the 80s. You know, he had a good thing rolling off from the 60s until the early 80s, but then that whole thing with Hogan, the thing with the Road Warriors, you had Hulk Hogan and the Road Warriors, within a 5-year time span, and you couldn't keep neither one of them, and then everybody else started leaving. It's kind of sad how the AWA went down, but he drug it down. It went down hard, went down fast.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna ask you this before I close us out for the night. I'm gonna ask you this question because I know it's hard keeping up with all of the admin stuff that you do in all the groups that you're in and responding and always going live and unboxing and all that stuff. What would you say to a new person wanting to get into the hobby? What's one piece of advice you would give them?
Ask around. Learn who you can go to and who you can trust and whose opinion you may value. Don't believe everything you hear, because a lot of times situations and stories is lost in transition. That's why I was talking about the word scammer earlier. It's misused at times. Go with your gut feeling. If it doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right, don't do it. Don't do it. You can come to me. You can come to people like Brandon. You can come to people like Tyler Dove and Jermaine Floyd and others in the hobby, especially with a lot of the admins. Get a feel for the environment that you're in. I always tell people, I was like, CBB may not be for you, and that's fine. It's if you're not, if you don't feel comfortable here, you don't have to stay here. We're not forcing you to stay here. You should feel that way with any group, but hopefully you don't. But yeah, ask around, ask for references, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Said the only stupid question is the question you don't ask that can get you burned out of money out of your pocket unnecessarily because you didn't ask.
Gotcha. Now, Ben, I know you've done this. I can at least say twice. One time you did it, I was late to the live, and I said, oh no, what did I miss? You did it again. Would you be able, because I don't want people to see exactly what Ben Walker collects. I don't think they understand the scope. That's more than just belts. It is more than figures. It's autographs, it's masks, it's pictures. Can you show us this temple to wrestling that you are sitting in? Because it's a lot. People think I got a lot going on. Ben took what I had and multiplied and said, hold my beer, watch what I did. And this man, I want everybody to see this, because when I've seen it, I say, "Oh, go back, no, go left, go. What's that right there?" And
Right.
I ask those questions, and I know people do it to me, be like, "Is that this belt behind you? Is that this?" So I just
Right.
want the people to see
I get
what
that
Ben
a
has.
lot. I get that a lot in my lives. People like, whoa, 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 stop, 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 right
Slow
there,
down,
right
go
there,
left. What's that?
right
Is
there,
that what I
right
think
there.
it
And I'm
is?
like,
So
okay. I
let's
mean,
take a
in
tour.
I had Man Up come to my house, and like I said, he came and just stood in the front, um, uh, at the door. He just stood at the door and was amazed at what he saw. So there's my closet full of t-shirts, and I'm gonna do some Road Warrior pads eventually, some minis and some regular size. So that's gonna be one of my summer projects. So yeah, I got wrestling figures lining up throughout the whole
Brother
room.
Dwayne Allen will be telling you, hold on, excuse me, let me see if you got it, because he is all about the figures.
And this is not even all the figures. I still have the Jack Pacific Classic figures, and because of the restrictions and the size of this room, I don't have room to store them. This is where I keep basically a lot of what I call the Ichiban collection.
Mhm.
But I have an autographed turnbuckle from Kenta, uh, my Chicago belt, which I need to put find a place for that. Got New Japan Junior with the Kushida figure in there. I got some Jushin Thunder Liger figures. I got to figure out where to put. If this belt looks familiar, that's the NWF Championship. Last champion was Shinsuke Nakamura.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, we'll just go around this room.
And look, I'm sitting
Look
there
at
watching it like it's the first time I've seen it. I'm trying to see if anything. I see some different stuff
right.
than before.
Yeah, and I shifted some stuff around too.
Okay.
So yeah, I got Farouk or Ron Simmons, Kenta, uh, Terry Funk's autograph, Rikishi, Scott Norton, and then got Nikita Koloff over there. And I got got these masks because I collect wrestling masks also. Got some Pentas, got some Great Muta hoods, and as some of you guys know, Great Muta is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So I have his autograph. My brother Jermaine Floyd gave me that as a housewarming gift when I bought my house a couple years ago. Got an autographed signature Great Muta figure from Japan. And I got some more masks there. I got AJ Styles. Some of you guys probably know he wore that as an entrance mask. Andre the Giant or Giant Machine figure and the mask. CM Punk. There's a Vader mask. There's another Vader mask here.
You definitely are a Chicago Bears fan.
Yes, that's me. Blue and
Oh,
orange.
there's your favorite belt. Look at your 10 pounds of gold.
Uh, I always say you have to have that in your collection, and you don't. It's just you
See,
do,
I'm
but you
glad
don't.
somebody said that, because
Because
that
you
and a
don't,
wing
you
eagle
don't.
you have to have in your collection.
Right. See, right there, Wayne Eagle.
I only said that because I saw it back there.
Yeah, you do, but you don't. I'm doing the J Crown
Okay.
plus the J Crown plus two, because so the Ultimate Dragon collection, I call it. So I'm working on that. Um, and there's my NWA belts. Hey Google, turn office lighting to 100%. Let me see if I get a little brighter in here. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I have the undisputed, and I also collect wrestling figures and rings and stuff. I just got to find a home for where that ring is. That's why it's on the floor right now. Um, I always drive people crazy when I show this belt, the IWGP Intercontinental version one. You don't see a lot of people with those, and there's version two
No,
on
the
the
one
black
that
leather.
MVP held first, and
Yeah,
then La Sombra when he was La Sombra before he was Andrade, right?
right. Yeah. So a lot of people they see that, and there's MVP figure right there. Um, I got more figures I got to put up on this wall. When I show that belt, people like, wow, you got that belt. I don't ever see that. I'm like, I've had quite a few people send me
Yeah, I've only
pictures and
seen
they
it one
bought it.
time in somebody's actual collection
Yeah,
because everybody always has the white one, the
they
version
always
two.
have the white one, and I have the version 2, but I have it on black leather
I
because
was gonna say
I
you have a
don't
unique one because yours is on a black strap, right?
right, and because I don't like color straps. You know, the red, the whites. You know, I won that in the raffle, Raffle King. I won that in the raffle. So, um, yeah, just I have my NWO shell. I'm gonna modify that. And then also I collect Voltron, Transformers, Thundercats, that type of stuff too. So yeah, it's just my room's just not restricted just to just the wrestling stuff, but I and then here's my Road Warrior wall. So one of the last autographs Animal did before he passed, he did an autograph signing with the Asylum. That's
Oh
why I got
wow.
that poster. Um, and then I got other posters and figures and stuff like that.
Yes, he said
The old
Voltron.
ones. Yeah.
One of the brothers, brother Hugh, perked up when he said Voltron.
Yeah.
I had him binge watching Voltron, so now he's
The
he's
the
very
the
interested in
the
Voltron.
the new version,
Yep.
the Netflix version. Yeah,
Yeah.
there he is right there.
Man, they did an awesome job on that. And me
They
being a
did
child
a
of the 80s,
great job. I tell people, I'm like, watch it, but you have to watch it from
yep.
the beginning.
And
You have
that's
to
where he
watch
fell
it.
into that rabbit hole. He started
Yeah.
on he said, sorry, I left the house in like 3 days because he binge watched it.
Yeah, if you binge watch it and then you'll watch it again because
It
you'll
was
watch it the
so
next time, you'll catch something that you didn't see the first time.
and the thing I can appreciate about it, they not only paid homage to the original, they did it in such a good way that the
Yeah,
story
like
kept progressing.
I like how they had Sven on there. He was that bounty hunter. Remember, he was that
Yeah.
bounty hunter. Like, wait a minute.
Wait a
They
minute, did they
threw
just
they
bring
they threw little different details in there. So
Yes, sir.
yeah.
That definitely recommend that.
So yep, there it is. There's a collection.
Oh wow.
And I have my Chicago wall there.
Yeah, because he's definitely a Chicago Bears fan.
Yeah.
Because you have a that might be another show where I wanted to show off your custom belts, but that'll be for another time.
Yeah, because I have the Chicago Bears belt and then I have my
You have
Chicago
two of
belt.
them, right?
Yeah, well, I have my Chicago belt.
The silver and black one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that has the Bears, the Bulls, then the Blackhawks on there, then the Chicago skyline. I had
Yeah,
that
because that was
done a
the
few
one I
years
remember
ago.
saying that because I was like, oh, that was different.
Yeah, people like
Sure.
I have somebody right now who's like, man, it's because of you I bought all these custom belts. It's like, what? How did I do it? It's like, man, you showed that Chicago belt and had me
It
buying
gets
all kind of
addictive.
other stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was like, man, I'm always willing to share. If somebody, want, want my opinion or something, I have no problem, being a part of that.
Yep. Well,
So
that seems like I think we got a lot of firsthand experience from the man himself, who has been a proven middleman, been a proven salesman, and a proven translator for the makers. I can't thank you enough, brother. When I reached out to you, your instant response was no problem. Just let me know when. So I appreciate you starting this journey with us at Championship Culture. Um, if everybody's watching, don't forget you can follow us on all social media platforms at The Wrestling Realm. Make sure you subscribe, like, and subscribe so you never miss when we go live, and you won't miss a chance to actually interact with us. As you can see, you write a comment, we respond. I appreciate the love. Ben, I cannot thank you enough for this evening. And tomorrow is a special edition of Championship Culture where I will be taking over the wrestling round for a special Night of Champions. As you can see it on screen, that's happening tomorrow. Yep, that's me in the front, no glasses at all, looking like very kingpinish. So tune in tomorrow. We got a very special guest for a takeover edition of the Wrestling Realm where championship culture will take over. So I hope you enjoyed that little plug I gave, Ben. What you think about that graphic?
Hey, you should get them viewers, man. You guys make sure you tune in
So
and check him out, man. Yeah, he in there looking like Kingpin, man.
I was waiting
Yeah,
for somebody else to
brother.
make that reference. It's the white
Yeah,
jacket, right?
right,
It's giving me Kingpin vibes. It's important. If
right,
you're free tomorrow, we go live on Wednesday at 10:30. It'll definitely be a party. It's a Night of Champions edition. Of course, you can't say champions without championship culture. So it should be just
right.
called the Night of Championship Culture. But I mean, it's the Wrestling Realm Presents. So we're gonna see what we got in store for everybody tomorrow. So Ben, really appreciate it. You got anything last words for anybody?
Hey, you guys know me.
Go ahead. You
Keep it
gonna say
drama
it?
free. Keep it sucker free. Leave it better than you found it, baby. Love y'all, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you
No
guys at
problem. Thank
Wrestle
you,
Realm.
everybody, and have a good night.
Houston, we have a problem.
Woo! I think that went well.